At Restore 3D, we believe that every patient deserves personalized care. As a world leader in patient-specific 3D printed musculoskeletal implants everywhere in the human body, we leverage cutting-edge technology to transform patient outcomes. Our proprietary expertise in 3D printing osseo-integrated materials, AI-based planning and design automation tools, and digital health solutions ensures seamless, data-backed care. Join us in reimagining the musculoskeletal reconstructive landscape. Learn more at restore3d.com. That's Restore3D, where every innovation meets personalization. So this is going to be one of my favorite episodes. It's not that often I get to talk to somebody about laser and photobiomodulation with another doctor. We have Dr. Stefano Sinicropi, who's an orthopedic spine surgeon out in Minnesota. Oh, I got so much respect for this guy. Spine surgery has become his side hustle at this point. He's an amazing brander and social media expert. He communicates so well. He's got a radio show. His Wellness and the Speed of Light podcast is outstanding. But really what he's done, which is truly remarkable, especially within the spine world, is he's really greatly appreciated other options for treatment. It's not just the spine. It's what you're eating, it's diet, it's exercise, it's cellular health. He calls these things as biohacks, where literally you can use red light therapy or photobiomodulation therapy or electromagnetic therapy, things that are out there that can create health and healing of your cells in ways that most doctors don't appreciate. There's a wealth of information here as far as all of those options that are available for our patients. This is a great listen, a little longer than most, but I couldn't stop talking because I liked it so much. Dr. Scott Sigman, hashtag follow the fro.
From Medical Media, this is The Ortho Show.
Hello, world. Dr. Scott Sigman, your favorite opioid-sparing orthopedic surgeon, here for another episode of the Ortho Show podcast, where everyone knows we bring you the best of the best in orthopedics, and today is no exception. We have my brother of another laser mother, Stefano Sinicropi, who is a president of the Midwest Spine and Brain Institute, private practice orthopedic surgeon that specializes in spine surgery. But man, this dude has a lot going on outside of spine surgery, and I can't wait to talk about it. Stefano, how are you, brother?
I'm doing wonderful. Just finished seeing an absolute truckload of patients in the clinic. Some really fascinating stuff today that came through, but couldn't wait to get on with you to pick up where we left off last time.
I know, this is fantastic. We did a little home and away on our podcast, right? I was a terrific guest. I don't typically have the second best voice on my podcast, but dude, you've got a voice for radio, man. You are it's perfect. I love those tones. Happy to have you on. So let's start where we start. Okay. We always start at the beginning because we like to tell your story. So where were you born? When did this whole doctor thing sort of come into play? Were your parents doctors? What's the story?
Yeah, I can go on for a long time. I can give you the brief version. I'm born and raised in the Bronx, and had a typical Bronx upbringing, very different than my Minnesota brothers and sisters here. Just a different world. And interestingly, you asked me that, and I haven't been asked that much about, when I thought for the first time that maybe I wanted to be an ortho doc or a doc in general. So I fell down the stairs when I was like 11 years old, and I had just a nasty compound fracture on my left elbow, open. And there was this wonderful orthopedic surgeon. His name was Dr. Uriel Adar. And he took great care of me. He pinned it, right? He reduced it, pinned it, closed the wound, talked to him for a while. And, I was going to his office and I said, man, this is really cool stuff. What wasn't cool was wearing that huge long arm cast that weighed, probably about my body weight. But,
especially probably in the summertime too, because you weren't jumping in the pool doing any of that stuff. Yeah.
It sure was the summer. So it was kind of a tough summer, but through that all, I remember visiting with him. He had an amazing, wonderful personality. And I just was I was fascinated. The one thing that really sticks out about that. I remember when he pulled my pins out in the office, I could still like kind of feel that shrieking noise as it was coming out of the bone. And but I just
And now,
loved it.
and now you're a spine surgeon. You get to do that on
No,
other people now, right? It's like full
I do.
circle. I love it.
The only difference is we don't pull out pins in the office from the spine.
No,
That's
that would be a
cruel
little
and
much.
unusual punishment, my friend.
I mean, the world is so upside down right now with all of the political stuff that's going on. And I can only imagine at the time in which you were growing up, the diversity of the people that you grew up with, Italians, Jews, you name it, right? They were all running around. Everybody was buddies and everybody sort of hung out with one another. Everybody accepted each other for their differences. And what a crazy new world it is right now, for sure. But we won't go there. But all right, so
Yeah,
it's going to be
we could go there. We could that's
that's
a
a whole other
whole other show
podcast.
because I have such a diverse background. That's why I didn't even want to go down that path because then we're not going to talk about anything related to clinical
Yeah,
anything.
let's
So
let
go
let's
ahead.
get let's get into this a little bit. So Fordham University, man, obviously you were a great student. You got into a great school and you're sticking around close to home at that point as well. And so the pin pulling experience where you're like, I am going to medical school, was that something that you were on that path?
No, I was no unbelievable. No, when I went to school, my first year struggled a little bit in college, but then really dialed it up. I dialed it. I started at about a 4 in my freshman year. I dialed it up to about a 10. Just because I had already made the determination kind of early on in college that I really was going to do this med school thing. It was just a passion of
Sure,
mine. I was just drawn to it. I don't know
sure.
what it was. I just wanted to take care of people and fix people, right? And just try to help them. And so I dialed it up. And when I got that, I always say this is bizarre. You're gonna. I remember when in our day, unlike the youth today, we used to fill out those paper applications. You remember that from med school.
Oh
So,
yeah.
listen, typical male waited till the last minute, right, to fill out my Columbia Medical School. And they were all separate. There was no uniform application. You fill out one and then you fill out the next one and you fill out the next one. These were long, long drawn out things. And I remember I waited till the last day, as typical procrastinating guy. And as I'm done, literally, no, I don't know if I've ever said this publicly. I was eating a banana before I put the thing in. The banana fell on the first page of the application, huge stain on page 1, right, of this application. I'm There's
And
nothing I can do.
and
I
you
literally
can't print another one. It was mailed to you to
mailed.
fill out. And I mean, I get it, man. I remember those days. So
So
you
bananas.
the banana state got you into Columbia Medical School. Who knows?
I was like, well, I guess we'll cross that one off the list. That's not going to work out. No, got the call, got the interview, went, loved it, and after that, I mean, I can't. I mean, when I got into Columbia, that was just it's just such an amazing feeling. And by the way, I love watching like these little YouTube videos or TikTok videos where people find out they get into med school or law school or whatever. Man, I get teary-eyed watching people I
Oh,
don't even know. I don't know who these people are, but it brings you back to your experience. And then you think about the future, maybe of your children, maybe getting a letter like that one day. So pretty exciting stuff.
yeah, great stuff. So what year? Because I didn't have your CV in front of me. What year did you graduate medical school?
So I'm a 99, class of
And
99.
class of 99. All right. And I'm assuming that you didn't apply to any medical schools outside of New York, because at this point you haven't left New York in your entire lifetime, right? So
No, actually, I give you another, sure. These are great questions because people just don't ask me this stuff. So actually, I applied all over I mean, I did apply all over the country, and people don't know this. I actually got a scholarship to University of Pittsburgh Medical School, and the thing that was interesting to me about that, medical school was that they were doing case-based learning, and they were one of the first schools to do that, and they were very different than everyone. So I was sort of attracted to that, but the attraction of staying home and being, in the home with my parents and just kind of having that safety net. Plus, I just love Manhattan, and so as a young man in Manhattan, it's Pittsburgh, Manhattan, and
yeah,
Columbia.
no,
I'm not.
you're
You
like
get it.
you're like the New York Giants quarterback. I forget his name at this point now. What was his name? He lived at home with his parents, and he's like Why do I want to go? Because my mother makes my bed, she does the laundry, and have you tried the chicken cutlets?
Was
So,
this was this Jones? I'm a huge Jet fan. Full disclosure. I'm sorry
sure,
to the fan. I know, don't make fun of me because I'm a Jets fan. I get it.
that's
Aaron
okay.
Rodgers played 4 plays. He got hurt. I get it. But this is our
I
year.
know that was
This is
supposed
our
to be.
year.
This is going to be your year. It's definitely not going to be the Patriots year, that's for sure. So the New York Bug stays for you though. Then it's Columbia
Yes.
for residency, which
Yes.
the lore of the Columbia residency, is just one of the great orthopedic residencies in the country. Yes, Bill Levine, we're talking about you again. We love
Yes.
you, brother. But what a tremendous learning ground to be able to learn from some of these iconic leaders of orthopedics at the time.
No, absolutely unbelievable. Bill Levine is, just an amazing, amazing human being. Now the chairman, also taking on like medical school interviewing now. He had just, I don't know how he does it. I just spoke to him a bit ago, not today, but a couple months ago about this stuff. Just a fascinating guy. I had the opportunity and the privilege to train under Dr. Biliani, a legend, I mean, we're talking legends, Melvin Rosenwasser, some of these other guys, Dr. Weidenbaum, who was just a beloved, and he's still there at Columbia. I believe he's only seeing patients in the clinic now, but just a beloved spine surgeon with so many of the different societies. Just anywhere you go, Dr. Weidenbaum, he's always there for me and my family. Dr. Mickelson, Dr. Vitale. I just tried to connect with his son the other day on
Good for you. I
LinkedIn. I
mean,
don't know Mark Vitale, but Michael Vitale. These are Chris Ahmad. I mean, these guys.
just the
These are
best. Yeah.
game changers. These are
Yeah.
absolute game changers.
Let me tell you a really quick, funny Biliani story. So I've got a patient up here that I'm doing this new patch on for their shoulder. It was like still brand new, barely. It was like 10 years ago. He says, "Look, do me a favor. Can you just check in with a friend of mine who I golf with up in Maine? Because he used
Yes.
to do this stuff. You mind if you just give him a call?" Yeah, I'm like, sure. Like, what's his name? I'll give him a call. He's like, "Oh, it's Louis Biliani." So I have to pick up
That's
the phone and call Louis Biliani to explain what shoulder surgery I'm going to be doing on one of his close friends. I mean, you can't make it up if you try. Um,
Well, amazing. But just another quick, you talk about phone calls and you say phone call and Biliani. I mean, Biliani's kind of a legend where George Bush would call Biliani in the operating room. They're like, who is it? It's George Bush. They just want to know when they're going to golf in Kenny Bunkport. It's just
exactly.
people. I mean,
Crazy.
this is what I got to grow up
I
around,
love it.
right,
I
in my
love it.
youth, and you'll never forget it. And that's it. Set the stage for an incredible fellowship with another, group of giants.
So congratulations. You took out your passport and you left New York.
Yeah.
And you went to Louisville, Kentucky, all the way to Louisville, Kentucky. What a little bit of a culture shock for you, I'm sure. But again, you didn't really have much time back at that time to be enjoying the culture of Louisville. You were a spine
Yes.
fellow. You were working hard.
Yes.
We were working 100 hours a week at least, maybe more, 120. But tell us about your fellowship too.
So fellowship was honestly, I got to say, that was one of the best experiences of my life. I'll never forget it. And honestly, as you know, your fellowship really does shape who you become as a surgeon and a person, and the way you approach these problems, right? Because you're going to the fellowship to learn specifically how to be that. How do I become these guys in the specialty that I'm choosing? And so Dr. Mladen Jurazovic was a former Columbia grad who had gone through the Leatherman Fellow. And so I had already known about the Leatherman Fellowship in Louisville, Kentucky through Mladen, and then he was there as an attending. And so I already kind of had it in the back of my mind, this is where I need to be going. And so I was able, to go there, and I mean, again, giants, right? I mean, Glassman, Puno, Dymar, all these guys, they are still considered, some of the greatest minds in what they've done in the field of spine surgery. This is who I get to thank, for what I was able to, become myself. It's just I mean, it's emotional for me just to even talk about standing on their shoulders and always wanting to be good enough to be seen in their eyes as worthy, just like any, it's a paternalistic thing, right? You just want to be seen in their eyes as, hey, this guy, he did what, we taught him well. And that's
Yeah.
all we want from from them.
No imposter syndrome. I mean, basically, when you're trained by the best, you go through the process, you become, one of the best. You become part of that family, and so yes, and then we have an obligation, of course, obviously, to share the things that we've learned, with
Yes.
the next generation. So that's very important for me as well. All right, so Minnesota. I mean, what's going on? Where's the move in private practice? So first, there's a couple of things like you're going to the Midwest. You've never been out that far, and you're going to join a bunch of like brainiac neurosurgeons. I mean, what's that all about? So tell us about private practice.
I mean, so that's a great question. So first, let's go back. Like Minnesota. I mean, everybody was shy. You're going to Minnesota to practice. Everybody assumed I was going back to the Northeast because we all, where we go? We go. Here's the options for a New Yorker: Connecticut, New York, or New Jersey. That's where we go. That's
Pretty
what we
much.
know.
And then
That's
you
what
go to
we do.
Florida, and then you go to the East Coast
Yeah,
of
yeah. Well,
Florida.
we go to Florida. Well, you know what? Now that I'm getting gray hairs, that's the time for Florida for New Yorkers, not necessarily at that time. You go later, to places like Florida. But honestly, the way it went down was I honestly was going to, and I had started in my kind of PGY4-ish year, starting to look because I wanted to be a little bit more meticulous on planning, especially location if we were going to move. And I was looking mostly in the Northeast area. And then I got a call from a headhunter. Okay, for those that that don't know that watch your show, you have a very large and broad audience. Headhunters are these guys that call you like trying to hire you, and they're paid by groups to get somebody in the door. And so I got called by this headhunter, and I'd be honest with you, when they said it was going to be Minnesota, where's your practice? Well, we're in Minnesota, and my first thought was, I'm not. There's no. I mean, that's flyover country for us. Do they even have a Target in that state? I don't know. I don't know what's going on in Minnesota. And so I talked to my wife, and she's just like, "Oh my God, why not give it a shot?" So I went out, and I was unbelievably impressed. I was like, "It's beautiful. The quality of life is good. To drive from point A to point B was great." And then the group that was there, one of the the main people that really attracted me to join this group was actually an orthopedic surgeon, because when I joined, it was when we switched over to a primarily neurosurgical practice. So Dr. Glenn Butterman is really a renowned surgeon. He's still our partner at Midwest Spine and Brain, and very, very heavily published, very known, every meeting. So I had known about Dr. Butterman well before I joined this practice. And, given the fact that he was so well published, everybody knew him at my fellowship as well. Maybe they didn't know him as as a friend, but they knew him as a colleague and the things that he had written. And so I came and I was uber impressed, and we kept coming to visit Minnesota. And every time we came, we got more excited. And then we just pulled the trigger and said, let's do it. It's a little out of the box. Never thought I'd be in the middle of the country, but here I am.
And you stayed, the new breed. I mean, everybody changes out after a year or two. They're unhappy about this, that, and the other, and they look for a new job. But us old school guys, you stick with the practice. I've been in the same practice for 27 years, right?
Yep.
And so really, really fantastic. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the things that you and I really share
Mhm.
in our passions for life. So first of all, you're really one of the rare breed in medicine in that you completely embrace social media, communication. It's just a part of your brand. It's who you are, right? You're educating, but it's not just spine surgery. It's your philosophy of life and the things that are important to you. Where did that come from?
I talk about this a lot, and it really came from I've always really enjoyed people. I'm just a people person, love it, have always talked like a guy. If you listen, you hand me a microphone, I'm happy. I'm going to be smiling, right? So I always knew that I wanted to do a lot of that stuff. Where it really came from my practice is my frustration with seeing people that were so lost in their own personal health journeys, both physically and mentally, And that theme is repeated over and over again. And I know you see this in your practice on a daily basis where people are not really understanding how their lifestyle choices impact everything. So early on, I got really into dieting, and exercise. That was my thing because I was always a big proponent of that. I've always spent a lot of time, in the gym, and then, experimented with all kinds of different diets. So I started bringing that to my patients. But then the more I became comfortable in my own shoes as a seasoned spine surgeon, the more I started really paying attention to these other issues where I wouldn't say, well, I don't have time for that. That's not my specialty. I'm not going to deal with it. I started becoming more and more, really, really into it. And then a couple of years ago, once I was introduced to a lot of different things in lifestyle medicine, biohacking, and other things, I became an absolute bookworm with these modalities. Before, all I read was about spine surgery. It was just an obsession on spine surgery. But then I started going back to basic science. We've talked about this before. When you start being able to equate, why is this person in front of me sick? And then go back to basic science and start like narrowing it down to things like cellular health and mitochondria. It just sparked something that was so like incredible. And then I just wanted to take that and take it to another level and start educating and saying, you know what? I wasn't even educated on a lot of these things because we were not taught these things in medical school and how they correlate with some of these, lifestyle changes, nutrition, diet, especially biohacks, which I'm sure you're going to ask me about, shortly. We're not taught this stuff, so it's not on our radar. But when you go back and you start correlating those two things together, I don't know how others are not as excited as the two of us are. And so I'm trying to bring this not just to the layperson that's interested in improving their health and wellness and well-being, but also to try to educate our medical community as to how some of these things that they're not familiar with can be of drastic benefit to their patients, but also to themselves. And sometimes that's how we get to them and say, hey, why don't you try these few things? Because I notice you're struggling with this or that. And then they try it, and then they come over to the light side, we'll just call it.
Yeah, look, when you first go into residency and practice, you're taught, the surgical skills of the things in which you do. And it takes a while to finally understand that, you're not operating on a shoulder, you're not operating on a spine, you're operating on a patient. And all of these other variables really play into the wellness and potential, hopeful improved outcomes, right? And indications in spine surgery are so important, right? I mean, there's just a lot of unnecessary spine surgery that happens out there. And so therefore, some of the results are not as good as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
So for the doctors that truly focus on the indication and really dive in and make sure they're doing great, and then you add in all these other things. I know you don't like to use the word alternative because it kind of gets like fuzzy. People are like, if it's alternative, we don't really need to be doing it, or it's kind of like it's California alternative, that type of thing. But no, but the truth is, nutrition, we'll talk about mitochondrial health, and I love your term biohacks. We'll jump into that as well. All of those things really make you a better doctor, allows for better outcomes for your patients, and then, it's really a win-win for everybody. So, look, let's talk a little bit more about that. Again, you and I share the entrepreneurial spirit, right? So let's talk a little bit about your hypercharge clinic and where that came from and the types of stuff that you're doing there, which are truly unique, because I think your spine surgical practice is becoming your side hustle, Stefano. I mean, you got a lot of stuff going on here, but get us going here on what's going on with hypercharge.
Yeah, so the hypercharge, going back, so the way it works, so hypercharge, we offer a lot of biohacks that are all well studied from a clinical standpoint and have a lot of utility for overall wellness care post-surgery. We can go on and on. But
define the biohacks. I want everybody to hear, what does it mean to you so our listeners know what a biohack means to you?
Yeah, it's just like in our show. Remember, we define like photobiomodulation, light tissue modulate to change, right? So biologic tissue, whatever you want to call it, cells, hack, right? We are going to hack in there. It's like a hacker, right? You have a computer program going and you don't like it, right? You're playing Minecraft, right? One of my kids is a hacker, right? So he'll go in and he'll type in a code and then it'll be like he'll glitch something or whatever. It's almost like taking these tools that we've been given, light, oxygen, water, those things, and then putting in a new little program into cells and then telling them to do something else. So we're really hacking into somebody's biology and then changing it by using things that have actually been around for a long time, like light therapy that we, a Nobel Prize in 1903, and here we are in 2024, and half of the people we talk to have no idea what we're even talking about. And so at the Hypercharge Clinic, initially, before Hypercharge was even born, I had a partner that it basically came to me with all these things. I wasn't a big believer in it. I had a big transformation because I read the science. He finally forced me to read the science behind it. And then I had that aha moment, brought these biohacks into our family, friends, and then spread it out into, treating different athletes and things like that. And we're blown away by the results. And so that's where Hypercharge was born. So Hypercharge clinics, which we have now 3, the 4th one opens here in a couple of months, provides these wellness services, which include 5 pillars. So we do whole body photobiomodulation, or people know it more as red light therapy, even though we do different spectrums, including green light, which it's a whole nother science. And then we do structured water therapy. We do exercise while under oxygen therapy, pulsed electromagnetic frequency, which I've been using for well over a decade because we use it for post-spine fusion because it creates more rapid healing. And then the one we share in common, again, is the laser bros, you and I, and we can put Cassano in there. So now we're going to start, the group is growing and I love it. But the laser therapy, we call it the wow factor. Laser is more powerful. It can penetrate more deeply. Again, it's in the, it's that near infrared light, penetrates tissues, and then can create changes in cells. Again, we're hacking those cells. We're saying, hey, you're doing this. Why don't you do this? Because this is better. And we can treat a lot of things. So all of our pillars are all designed to basically jumpstart. So our big one, it's called Recharging the Human Battery. It's one of our taglines. It's actually the name of my new radio show, which actually, premieres next month. So we're excited about that. We're also doing some diagnostics now because we believe that we really need to look at different body systems to show that there's going to be a difference when you biohack. So we're doing something called the Brain View scan, which is a quantitative EEG of the brain, since we're, getting down the brain field. We're doing something called the Glyco Check, which looks at microvasculature. And then we're bringing in something called the REMS bone scan from Italy, which is an ultrasound, basically equivalent to a DEXA scan. It has no radiation and it's administered in just minutes. And it provides not only a T-score, but also a fragility index score. So then we know we have a baseline by which we can make some changes and hopefully show improvements in that patient population.
Yeah, no, it's look, it's so frustrating, right? When I loved your line when we were talking on your podcast. Like some of the family practitioners and the internists or whatever, they run away from you in the hallway because they know you're going to come to them and talk about infectious disease and laser and photobiomodulation therapy. They're like, oh God, here comes the laser guy again, right? But the truth is, there's tremendous body of literature, both in the clinical as well as in the basic science, that shows that light therapy can truly, change the cellular metabolism. You talk about mitochondrial health, right? We can activate the mitochondria to make more energy, which creates a healing response. We're a species on a planet that's been here for 300,000 years, and that planet has a sun. So in our deepest genetic code, we're sensitive to light. And, and to all of those doctors that are so skeptical, you had Paulo Cassano on as an MD PhD from Mass General Hospital talking about the photobiomodulation studies that they're doing on brain health and concussions and anxiety and depression. Hello, everyone out there. I want to be perfectly clear about this. Some of our greatest universities in the world that are present here in the United States are researching these types of light therapies. So we need to talk about this. We need to educate people. right? I mean, it's just, it could be frustrating.
Listen, listen, I'm glad you brought that up about people running away. If people are not running away, we're not doing our jobs because the only way to do this is literally to be complete, like just literally a broken record. Every time you say it, okay, you say it again, right? People say if you say somebody's name 3 times, 4 times, whatever, it's the only way. The only way they're going to get it is if you're just continuing to be persistent. It just because they have to understand again, it's not something that we're accustomed to. I'll be the first person to admit when these concepts were first brought to me, not a believer. No, I'm like, what are you light the red that does what to who? But then when I was almost forced, I mean, one of our partners, Tram, I mean, literally, he forced me. He kept sending me article after article. I'm like, and then finally I said, you know what, just give me a data dump. I'm just going to spend the weekend. Once I spent the time reading this stuff, I felt like I had slighted myself by not being more open-minded about looking into some of these things. But again, I mean, I can't sit around blaming myself, and just like we can't blame our colleagues because they don't know. It's not out there. No
It's
one's
not
selling
taught.
this to us. We're
It's
selling
not.
it now,
That's right.
but
We're
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 selling
self-taught. We're self-taught
exactly self-taught.
because it's not in the medical school curriculums. And so if these doctors haven't learned it, there's always skepticism. Anytime a doctor has to learn something new, it does come with skepticism. But
Yes,
we're cracking it a little bit. We're getting a few more believers almost every day. We're opening
yes.
a bunch of franchises with Ortho Laser. We've got 20 open. Our new CEO Rod Meyer is going to take us to a whole nother level. So we're on a mission of healing with light. And I love the name of your podcast. Wellness at the Speed of Light. We're podcast brothers as well. You got to tell us about this radio show, man. You're letting the world know right now what's going on with the radio show. Let's tell everybody.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, so I'm going to be on this radio station. It's a small radio station, AM 950. Very nice people. They were interested in doing something with us. And so the name of the radio show is Recharging the Human Battery. And it really is a show that's going to be really trying to explain how we jumpstart ourselves mentally and physically. And it's going to, again, I'm going to bring on, as opposed to the podcast where I've been focusing more on, brilliant guys like yourself to give us real deep information on it. There, we're going to be bringing on some guests, but a lot of it is just going to be talking about what are the latest articles out here, like dissecting into some of these things I can't really do on the podcast, but also talking to people that lives have been changed by whatever technology, whether it be stem cell therapy, whether it be photobiomodulation, whether they're, can walk again because they are, using an exoskeleton, another amazing technology, which I actually got to, see, meet with a couple of the CEOs last week. I was in DC actually lobbying for the light therapy. Let there be light. I need you to come with me next time. We got to do this. We got to hold hands and just go with like just a light consortium. I mean, and just and we need like the full session of Congress. Get it going.
We'll leave our lightsabers at home, but we're going to bring Adam Brueggemann with us. Adam is the AAOS orthopedic lobbyist officially. He's in DC all the time, so he's got a lot of connections there. There's the No Pain Act that was just recently passed. The No Pain Act, for our listeners, is really a novel concept and idea to allow opioid alternative options available for the management of pain and inflammation, but allowing them to have research that can be performed, but most importantly, eventually, have insurance companies be able to pay for these things. Right now, these types of biohacks that you're talking about and photobiomodulation therapy or a patient pay model, probably not going to change, anytime soon. But it's, people are really pining for, options other than necessarily surgery. Certainly they want to avoid opioids. I mean, so tell us, how are you using PBMT in your clinical practice? What patients are you referring there? Are you using it post-surgery? Are you using it for patients with chronic illness? Where are you seeing the development of that as within your centers?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, for the folks that I'm sending in my ecosystem as a spine surgeon, on the spine surgery standpoint, we have a significant opioid crisis going on in our country. So many of the new patients to me are already on a boatload of opioids. That was my first thing that I said when I went in that little congressional deal last week. I said, you know what, we have a crisis. So here's the problem. And so they come in, and a lot of them, as you know, right? You remember your back pain days. You probably still have nightmares about when, as a resident, you had to see these back pain patients. Like, what do you do with these people? Having an option now to be able to send them for something, when I say to them, we're not going to put a needle in you. We're not going to do surgery. We're going to use light therapy to modulate your system and downregulate your pain receptors so that you feel better. And also we can heal tissue. We can do other things. We've seen absolutely incredible benefits in some patients. I know you know this. I'm literally preaching to the choir with back pain, right? Whether it's pre-surgery, my post-surgery patients that have had, surgery that maybe they're struggling more. We want to minimize opioid use. We're using laser therapy in those situations, even in certain sciatica. Where I really love it, is we've seen excellent benefit in people that have whiplash syndrome, right? What's the go-to for whiplash syndrome for us, right? It's a lot of PT, other things, but the big go-to is radiofrequency ablation. Now, radiofrequency ablation, there's good data behind it. There's good literature. And for whiplash syndrome, especially in the cervical spine, you can get some benefit, but it's a denervating procedure. It wears off, and there is a cost to the system. So those procedures done, they add up. And a lot of people I see, they're on their fourth or fifth or sixth radiofrequency ablation. They wear off, but sometimes it's diminishing return. Laser therapy for whiplash syndrome, kind of in the spine world, has been, it's a godsend. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, there are some patients that are doing fantastic after whiplash syndrome. Imagine a world where you present to your primary care doctor and you've just had an auto accident, even if it's at 20 mile an hour, but you have horrible neck pain. You've got bulging up and down your neck. You're not going to have a major neck surgery, or you want all these needles put in. Why not have laser therapy as an initial option? Go to ortho laser, go to hypercharge. It's a no-brainer. Now, outside of the spine surgery world, the excitement continues, and I continue to broaden my horizons. You know how many patients we see as spine surgeon whose primary presenting complaint is migraine headache? I urge people to look at the results of migraine and using photobiomodulation for it. We have so many patients who have had long-standing migraines with dramatic improvement. Again, this isn't medical advice. Again, you'd have to see us as providers to make medical advice, but from a wellness standpoint, right? It's dramatic. And then if you start thinking about other things I might see, reflex sympathetic dystrophy, other chronic pain syndromes, we see so many other orthopedic, foot and ankle surgery, shoulder problems when they've had, multiple surgeries, up your alley, simple things, tennis elbow. How many people at the end, they're like, "What, hey doc, what should I do about my tennis elbow? What do I do about my heel pain?" I say, guess what? I got one word for you: laser.
And I want to be clear, everyone, this is a board certified, well-respected orthopedic surgeon that specializes in spine surgery. Okay. This is exactly the type of thing that we talk about routinely. And, to your point, I get this question a lot, right? When it comes to laser, right? You're telling me that this works for everything. You're on the soapbox, what are you talking about? But what I like to tell people is that, laser doesn't treat a condition. It doesn't treat a diagnosis. It regulates the modularity of the cell. And the cell could be in your neck, it could be in your shoulder, it could be in your elbow, and it could be in your brain, which is just a big bunch of nerves, right? Which is why it's so exciting with the work that's being done at Mass General Hospital when it comes to photobiomodulation therapy. So to our listeners out there, just think about this. Always have a certain amount of skepticism, but educate yourself. More often than not, if you truly learn and find out about these things, there are some great options that are out there, including photobiomodulation therapy. Listen, Stefano, this was amazing. Literally, you and I could talk for another 8 hours about this, and we wouldn't even need a break. But, I can't thank you enough. I mean, there's so many levels that I think that you have really done so well. Obviously, you're an exquisite spine surgeon, but
Thank you.
to take the time and the energy to really try and help your patients in ways beyond what you were trained in. Your social media branding is absolutely outstanding. Your communication skills, your education for physicians, but also for your patients, thinking outside the box, coming up with these biohacks and these other things, but then also now you're lobbying to come. I mean, it's just, you got it all going on, brother. You are my brother of another mother. I so appreciate you, and we thank you for all of the amazing work that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say right back at you. I mean, I've been following you for a long time. Can't thank you enough for paving the way in this space. I'm just getting, I wish I had known about it when you knew about it. Cause but you know what? The right things happen at the right time. A lot of times things happen in your life where it's meant to happen. And I can't be more excited and more passionate about being around guys like yourself, and others that are that want to help the world so much to heal and to be better. Because after all, if we don't feel well, we can't enjoy this beautiful gift that we've been given. And so on these platforms, your social media is amazing. Your show's amazing. Being able to share this with other people and get people excited, I think gives us access to such a broader group of people than we have with just whoever shows up in our office, right? That's a tiny, tiny blip of people that we can help. So by doing these things, hopefully we can help more people that really need helping.
What a privilege it is to be the host of this podcast, being able to share the remarkable stories of individuals like yourself that sort of go beyond what they were trained for, but most importantly, really wanting to share in the human spirit and coming up with great new ideas and concepts. This is Dr. Scott Sigman, #FollowTheFro, host of The Ortho Show. Till next time.